Last month, the tech community went mad because of the release of the iPhone SE, and that was because we saw flagship-like specs in a budget phone. But this type of phone is nothing new. We saw it last year with Google when they released the Pixel 3a, and it was so successful that it actually outsold the regular Pixel 3. And that's because there is a need for good budget phones. And maybe the Pixel 4a can save the Google Pixel brand. Not surprisingly, the Google Pixel 4a has been leaked to a point where we know almost everything about it, and at this point, it's like Google is leaking this phone themselves. The Pixel 4a is rumoured to have some decent specs for the price, which we're expecting to be around about $400. So a 5.8-inch 1080p display, you're going to get 6 gigs of RAM, a 3080 mAh battery, and then the big seller, which is going to be that single lens taken from the Google Pixel 4s. But there are some other rumours that are flying about as well, that the Google Pixel 4a could undercut the iPhone SE massively by selling it at $350 and starting with 128 gigabytes of RAM. And I'll redo my promise from last year, which was quite costly, where if you like and comment on this video and Google release it for that $350, then I'll buy all of you a Pixel 4a. If Google do that though, this will be probably one of the best selling phones of this year, which you think would be good for Google, but I'm not sure it would be. Google seem not to know what to do with the Pixel. Do they brand the Pixel phone as a flagship and go for it and go head to head with Samsung and take on Apple? Or do they just say, you know what, let's boss this market and stick to mid-range? I can't see Google and the Pixel brand ever being creative and coming up with a foldable phone like we're seeing on Samsung, or just being good enough to take people away from iPhone. Google do one thing really well, and that's the camera. There's no denying that, because the cameras on the Pixel phones have been some of the best cameras on mobiles for the last however many years. But everything else they do is just good. And good isn't good enough anymore, unless you make budget phones where then good is good enough. We know there's a market out there for these budget mid-range phones. Just take the sales figures from the Pixel 3a last year and have a look at what's happening with the iPhone SE this year. The big draw of the Pixel 3a last year was that camera, because the camera on that phone was better than some flagship phones that cost 3 times the price. If Google get this right with the Pixel 4a and embrace what the Pixel 4a is all about, then there's a chance that it could save the Pixel brand. I just don't think Google can keep competing with flagship phones when people don't want it. But if you concentrate on making that $400 phone good, then the chances of selling it goes up dramatically, and especially in a time, in a world where people don't want to spend $1,000 plus on a phone, but $400, now that sounds more appealing. The Pixel 4a could be unique to Google, and the only competitors they have at the moment are things like the Poker phone, but I think if Google decided to be that mid-range device making company, they're going to kill the market. They won't need to spend a lot of money on design, because the Pixel 3a and the 4a design that we've seen is good, and they don't have to then spend money on coming up with groundbreaking features as well, because gestures on the Pixel 4, who uses gestures? I really want to be on board with a Pixel phone, but not when it costs $1,000 and they only do some things okay. It makes it really difficult. But if Google decided, like I said, to embrace this market of mid-range phones, then I think that the Pixel 4a could save the Pixel brand.